What's going on, family? Y'all know what time it is. It is your top-down analysis for Sunday, August the 9th through Friday the 14th. So we are looking at the markup for last week's top-down analysis, where I identify key levels, zones, the weekly, daily high, low, and of course the monthly high and low for July. Last week was the first week of August. So I always mark up that monthly high and low because that is the higher time frame range that we are trading, that price will be trading against. And I also let you guys know that I mark those up, those monthly high, the monthly high and low, the weekly high and low, because from a higher time frame, since I am a swing trader, you guys that know me know that I am a swing trader. I'm really looking for her, depending on structure, to break the high or the low. Since we were coming into the week bullish, right? Y'all remember, those that did watch the last week's TDA know that I was anticipating a bullish gap. And from there, if we continue to stay above a certain area or a certain zone, I was anticipating that continued momentum for the better half of the week, which we did. So once we saw that, then these levels, I was pretty much understood that we were going to continue and hit these levels, and that July, that monthly high, was definitely going to be hit because it fell right in line with the major supply zone of 4,200. Now, I've been saying over and over again, once we break above 4,200, man, bullish trending is on the way. Okay. We can definitely see some pullback, and we'll get into that in a minute. But that 4,200 to 4,220 zone, that's the level that I was looking for her to break very, very aggressively against and then continue up. And I had that area as a longer distance or a swing target. And of course, my major first swing target was 4370. I do have some higher swing targets still, that I've held on to for a minute. I also have lower swing targets from a bearish perspective. But since we opened bullish, we went through the understanding, the breakdown of how I determine the bullish first 2 weeks of the month or so from the previous candle, or how we closed in the previous month, right? That tells a lot of how we are likely going to continue at least that first half of the month, okay? But we did tap that swing target. A lot of you guys made money in the community, so congratulations to you all. Very, very, very happy for you guys. It was a beautiful week. I'm looking forward to another beautiful week. So let's get into the news, what we can expect from an economic standpoint. And for those of you all that are new, I know a few of you guys are new to the community, new to the channel. I always go through Forex Factory. I talk about things from an economic standpoint and a fundamental standpoint, because it's not enough just to be financially literate. A lot of folks will talk about financial literacy on and on and on and over again. But I do believe that we have to take it a step further and understand how to be economically sound and economically empowered. Financial literacy tells us how to budget, how to save, etc. But economic literacy, right? Economic empowerment tells us how and where our money is going, why things are happening the way they are. Why are the price of eggs or food, groceries, gas going from this price point to the next, Instead of just going along with the flow, we need to be smart consumers. We need to understand what is happening from a world view standpoint. That's why we want to pay attention to what's happening and what these reports are telling us throughout the week. They all drive what? Money. Okay. So Monday, no red folders. And again, I'm looking for red folders. That's really what I'm paying attention to. Some orange folders, and I'll point those out. But for the most part, red folders are going to give the volatility, volume, and liquidity, which equals money going into the market. No red folders for USD. On Monday, we do have a bank holiday for JPY. So those that do trade the JPY pairs, so that market will likely be slower. Tuesday, no red folders. Wednesday, we do have core CPI month to month, year to year. So a lot of you guys that have traded CPI before, y'all already know it can be very volatile. Very volatility will push a lot of volume, of course, in the market, which will give us a better direction as far as where price action is likely going from New York to Asia. Okay, so that's at 7:30. So mark your calendars on Wednesday. Thursday, we have a few red folders. The core PPI, CPI and PPI typically follows back to back. And we also have unemployment claims. Now, y'all will see that this is, they started to change this unemployment claims from red to orange. But I still say that it's a highly critical news report because it measures the amount of claims that were filed for unemployment. Of course, that affects the strength of the US dollar. All right. Friday, no red folders, but we do have the orange folders, which are considered medium impact. Again, I still feel there's going to be, we're most likely going to end the week off with some higher volatility. Okay, a lot of impact. Now, from a fundamental standpoint, right, I still see, it's not a whole lot has changed from the Iran war from that fundamental perspective. We still got the war is still going on, basically. We still have, a lot of back and forth, and are we in negotiations? Are we not? There's a lot of back and forth on it. I do still see from what Trump has tweeted, the press reports, and all of everything that we saw over the last week, negotiations are still in play. They're still trying to come to an agreement. I know the oil reserves are steadily being, absorbed. So it is in the best interest of everybody that we put this war, or the United States and Iran, Iraq, all the powers that be puts this war to bed. We get the negotiations going, but it's still not completely finalized. And remember, the market is highly, highly emotional. It will always react to the could be of something, the premise of something before it actually happens. Okay, trying to find the right word, but y'all get me. All right, so going back to the chart, like I said, went over this a little bit. I'm not gonna spend too much time on what happened last week. We made some good money, those that did get in. I did explain, why I had these certain targets and why I do my zone. So let's look at, and this was Wednesday's midweek analysis. Of course, these were the areas that I was looking at. Continuation higher bullish target 4360. We actually tapped 4370. So we did hit that retest of the 4200 to 4220 zone. And I gave a bearish outlook in case we did not hold that 4,000 area, but above that 4,000, 4,100 area, we were pretty much home free. All right, so going into this new chart, I've got a fresh chart, and typically y'all will see me where this is already marked up, but I decided let's just do a completely new chart for those that may need a bit of a refresher for how I mark up my charts from Sunday to the end of the week. Okay. I always do my TDAs usually on Sundays. I may change that schedule, but for now it is on Sundays, and typically when the market is still closed. Okay, so I can see exactly where we left off, how we closed from a week perspective to the Friday session. So This was the liquidity compression we saw. Of course, I always show that because from a higher time frame standpoint, monthly, weekly, we can see the major structure or the directional structure of where we were and the breakout, where that breakout happened. Okay, so for this week, the high was 43.42. The low of the week was 40.23. Okay, and you can see, let me come back. This is, I marked this up on the weekly time frame. Okay, so this is my weekly daily high. Hold on here. My high, my low. I jump down to my daily, and I want to get my mid-range. So now that I have my high and my low, and I'm always making sure that I capture the wick. Okay, I'm not just going body to body, I'm going wick to wick because that is the full range of motion of price action. Okay. If I just did body to body, I would not really capture what I need to capture, that full range of price action. So this just so happens to be right at a major institutional level. Our mid range is right at a major institutional level of 4,200. Okay. Now I'm not everybody does this. Again, everybody teaches differently. Everybody marks up their charts differently. It really just depends on what you see and what speaks the best for you. Okay, I will never say or never criticize another individual or another educator, etc., on how they mark up their charts, how they view the market, because at the end of the day, it's what speaks to you. As long as you're making money, that's all that matters, right? So what speaks to you? Now, this is how I teach this. I'm very big on levels and zones, especially with gold, because gold is known to do fake outs, fake breakouts, sweeps, and then collect all of the liquidity and then take that money and go the complete opposite direction. It's known for that. So in order to really understand the flow, right, the order flow of price action, I want to understand and I want to see, well, where is the full range of my motion? Okay, where are the key levels and zones that price is typically gravitates to, right? And for me, he's just studying the gold market and the commodities market the way I have for the last, few years. I see how price likes to sweep the highs, the lows, and will use this mid-range or this equilibrium point as usually as either ranging, consolidation, or breakout, okay? So 50% is our mid-range because this is 50%. What I'm doing is I'm measuring 50% of this entire move from the start of the week, right? Lower start of the week to the close, the highest point of the week, the lowest point of the week to the highest point of the week. I want to measure that mid-range area. So my mid-range is right at 4,200. My high is 43.42, and I started doing this too. My high is 43.42. My low is 40.23. That's the lowest price got during last week. This is the highest price got, and this was the mid-range. This is where we saw the next level of breakout. And you can clearly see that right on the chart. So off the top, these three areas our zones are going to be key levels that I'm in, key zones that I'm definitely going to watch, okay, for the week. Now, because we are absolutely and clearly above my mid-range, I would without a doubt say that our major and minor structure still is bullish. Okay, so we're still showing that, especially from a minor standpoint, we're still showing that bullish momentum. Now we could absolutely see some pullback, and we should be due for some pullback, to be honest with you, coming into Sunday, Monday. But let's keep going down the time frames and let's see what we got. All right, so I'm already marking these off as my 3 zones that I'm definitely going to be looking at. Now, from a 4-hour perspective, this is where I typically will draw my trend line, because I like to just be able to follow price, right, from a higher standpoint. And because this is my 4-hour trend line, I'm going to turn this different color. 4-hour trend line. I want to see how price reacts to this area. I want to see, are we, from a higher time frame, can we possibly come back to around this area, right, to either reinforce this as support or resistance. So we either come back down to this area around that 43, I'd say 4,300 to 4,320, right around here, or are we going to break this area? Now this is now resistance, and we could possibly come back down to this mid-range at 4,200 before we see another push up. So my 4-hour trend line is just going to tell me, or show me, give me a bit of a guide as far as price action. Are we respecting this area, or are we breaking it? Are we respecting it, or are we rejecting it? The rejection would be for pullback to these lower area. The first, this lower area of 4,200. That would be the first area I would look at for another push up. If I'm looking for a lower entry for possible, long entry, or are we respecting it to potentially get a breakout? So something to the effect of, where we come here, come up, respect, and continue. Right? So that would be that bullish breakout. One of two things could happen. I don't see us completely going, bearish this week. I from a fundamental standpoint, what's going on with Iraq and all the news and everything, unless we have some drastic numbers come through on for CPI and PPI, I think those are the two main numbers that we need to be watching from, as far as like from a directional standpoint. Unless we see some unfavorable numbers for the US dollar, where they come in weaker than expected or lower than expected, then we could quite possibly see this, this continuing up. So I have my 4-hour trend line. Now from a 1-hour perspective, just keeping it very, very simple, I want to take my fibs from the start here to how high we were there. These are the areas that I'd be looking at. Again, I'm looking at it from the 1 hour, and then I'm going to drop down to the 15-minute as well. But from a higher time frame perspective, again, 4,200, that is right around my 61.8 area. If we were to come down, right, come beyond my 4-hour, my trend line, if we were to break that and then find support right around my 61 or my 50. So 41.90 to 42, and I think in terms of zones. I always think in terms of zones for gold. So 41.90 to 4,200, 42.25 to 40, probably see 42.30, 35 or so, and then this 38 is 42.60. So in case from like I said, a higher time frame standpoint, we come down, that's what I would be looking at. Now, those are the zones that I would be looking at. Now, in the event, let's take it down to the 15-minute. Okay. All right. So now in the event we do not, and I'm just going to use it from here, we do not see a lot of pullback, right? In the event we do not see a lot of pullback, because, and I could I could see us absolutely giving a bit of a bit of a breakout, possibly not going down here, maybe not Sunday, maybe not today. It could be a little bit later on in the week when we actually get a full, a full pullback, because we are really scheduled for another a deeper pullback. But in the event we do not, I am seeing a bit of a breakout here, right? I can get my example, I could get my little trend line area, and I could absolutely see a breakout coming, right? This was what we call a bullish pennant pole area, this being the flag or the pennant. I could absolutely see us continuing up. So in that instance, I'd be looking at 43.30, 43.40, 50 to 60 area for a continuation up. Right? But I really would want to see something like this up. If we do have a nice breakout here, I would like to see her come up and then come back down to this area, maybe right around that 43.40, 43.40 to 43.30. Would even do 43.20, that 78 would still be good, but I'm looking at these three zones. But I would want to see her coming up and then a retest of that same area before continuing further. The reason why I want to see that retest, I want to see if she is really breaking out and it's a true breakout, or if it's just just a quick fake breakout before she continues further down. Okay. But all in all, this week I am expecting more bullish momentum. This markup is decidedly simpler than the others that I typically do, just from a very simple standpoint. Just wanted to show you guys what I typically look at. And again, it's not all that difficult. It's really not all that complicated. The only other thing that I would be looking at again, and to keep in mind, are from the higher standpoint, are fair value gaps, because we do have one here. Got a nice fair value gap here, 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 a few up at the top, but they're mainly down down below this area. So if we do see if we don't end up breaking above this weekly daily high and instead rejecting this 4-hour trend line, let's say we break below our 4,200, if we continue that further, I would be looking at, once we break below that 4-hour trend line, I would be looking at a sell, most likely a sell position to come down to this 4,200 area. 4,200, and looking at this area as well. 40, 43, which again is major institutional level. All right, so y'all will see I am very focused and zoned in on institutional areas. Okay, P zone 4,300. And this is for buyers and sellers. Okay. So I am for now, I am bullish going into this week. We do get some sell opportunities. I would want to see her break this 4-hour trend line, break this 4,300. Well, yeah, break this 4-hour trend line. First target maybe for a quick intraday would be right to 4,300. kind of see how price action acts at this area. Below that 4,300 would be, again, you could take it all the way down to the 42. You could also take some targets right in between here, because we do have a nice little 4-hour, or rather the 1 hour fair value right around 42.70, right around in here. Okay, but we do have lower price inefficiencies here, here, and here. And this area 2 is another area of interest, I would say. Again, that's 4108, 4100. So typically I will look for breaks of structure, changes of character, anywhere where we've had breaks and they're very prominent in gold. Okay. All right. So I will write out the zones and the levels that I'm looking at, but you can pretty much see again where my head is at. I'm looking for buys. I'm bullish thus far for this week. I do feel like we're going to continue. And the last thing, from the higher standpoint, how far could she continue? Well, I always look left. All right. So I'm always looking left. So from a swing target perspective, 4,600, a little bit lower than that. We could see I would say 44.60, and quite possibly we could see 44.20 to 4,400. But yeah, I would say, looking at these like 44.40 to 44.20 areas, that's where I would look at for targets, swing targets here. Yep. And the higher one, I'd say, would be right around there. I'm looking for areas of either major resistance or areas of like breaks, where we've had breaks of structure. Yep. So those would be these blue dotted areas would be my targets for buys for the week. Okay, if I see anything saucy, of course, I'll put it in the community or in the chat. But y'all let me know what y'all see. Y'all definitely comment. Let me know what y'all see. Yeah, and let's have a great week. I'll see you guys at the beaches and the banks.